Have you ever wondered why terrorism exists and what strategies are employed to counter it? Now, to answer these questions, we must first understand what we perceive as terrorism. At its most intrinsic level, terrorism signifies the use of violence or threat of violence, customarily against civilians, to achieve political, religious, or ideological objectives. The United Nations defined it as criminal acts intended or calculated to provoke a state of terror in the general public, a group of persons or particular persons for political purposes. The US Department of Defense defines terrorism as the calculated use of unlawful violence or threat of unlawful violence to inculcate fear. On the other side of the coin, we have counterterrorism, which embodies the practices, tactics, and strategies that governments, militaries, and other groups adopt to prevent or respond to terrorism. The United Nations General Assembly adopted a global counterterrorism strategy on the 8th of September 2006. The strategy is a unique global instrument to enhance national, regional, and international efforts to counter terrorism. So, what actually stimulates terrorism? The answer is far from simple. It can be fueled by a host of factors like easy access to sophisticated weapons and technology, political, religious, ethnic, ideological, and socio-economic grievances, and even territorial disputes. The European Union Terrorism Situation and Trend Report 2018 mentioned that jihadists are becoming more innovative and capable of using new technologies for their criminal activities. For instance, the genesis of terrorism in India can be traced back to the partition in 1947, which triggered ethnic riots and acts of terrorism. The territorial dispute between India and Pakistan, particularly in Jammu and Kashmir, is a core issue in the conflict between the two nations. Understanding terrorism is the first step towards countering it. The United Nations Office of Counterterrorism was established in June 2017. It identifies four main priority areas: addressing the conditions conducive to the spread of terrorism, preventing and combating terrorism, building states' capacity to prevent and combat terrorism, and to strengthen the role of the United Nations system in that regard, and ensuring the respect for human rights while countering terrorism. Let's delve deeper into this complex issue in the next scenes. Terrorism is not a static phenomenon. It evolves and adapts over time. Similar to how a chameleon alters its colors to blend in, terrorism has relentlessly morphed, adopting new methodologies and technologies to further its destructive agenda. Let's delve deeper into history to comprehend this evolution. In the too distant past, terrorism was marked primarily by physical acts of violence, bombings, hijackings, and assassinations. These acts were fundamentally driven by political, religious, and ideological motivations. However, with the advent of the digital era, a fresh frontier emerged for these acts of violence. The cyber has become a hotbed for terrorist activities. It provides them with a safe platform to confer, strategize, and sometimes execute their operations. The internet has also played a pivotal role in the flow of funds for these groups, simplifying the process of financing their activities. This transition from physical to digital realm has presented new challenges for those tasked to counter these threats. As has morphed, counterterrorism has followed suit. Traditionally, counterterrorism strategies were largely reactive. The authorities would address an act of terrorism post its occurrence, focusing primarily on bringing the offenders to justice. While this approach is still central, it's no longer sufficient in isolation. Today, counterterrorism strategies are progressively proactive and preventive. This shift is propelled by an understanding that it's more effective to thwart an act of terrorism before it transpires rather than respond post-event. This necessitates identifying potential threats, monitoring dubious activities, and dismantling terrorist networks. A significant component of these strategies is international cooperation. Since terrorism is a global issue, it calls for a global response. This implies sharing intelligence, synchronizing actions, and collective efforts to fortify our defenses. Another major area of focus is the disruption of terrorism financing. This involves identification, tracking, and disruption of the funding sources that enable terrorist groups to execute their activities. Follow the money, a popular adage, often leads to the root of the problem. As terrorism mutates, so must our strategies to counter it. This is an ongoing game of cat and mouse. But by staying a step ahead, we can continue to safeguard ourselves and our societies from these threats. India, positioned strategically and known for its complex internal dynamics, has endured the brunt of various forms of terrorism. The origin of terrorism in the nation is intertwined with the traumatic partition in 1947, a tumultuous period characterized by ethnic riots, terror attacks, and vast human distress, setting a demanding groundwork for the newly formed republic. The territorial contention between India and Pakistan, especially over the disputed region of Jammu and Kashmir, has continued to instigate conflict and persistent terrorism. This prolonged disagreement has given rise to countless violent incidents, often stoked by political, religious, and ethnic animosities. The geographical vastness of India, including its porous borders and expansive coastline, provides an avenue for foreign terrorists to infiltrate the country. These infiltrators often receive financial assistance and logistical backing from various sources, taking advantage of India's geographical vulnerabilities. To comprehend the magnitude of terrorism in India, consider the case studies of two major incidents: the Taj Hotel attack and the assault. In November 2008, Mumbai, India's financial capital, was held captive for 4 days by 10 terrorists who orchestrated a series of coordinated assaults. The iconic Taj Hotel was one of the key targets, which led to extensive damage and significant loss of life. This incident highlighted the grim reality of urban terrorism and laid bare the challenges associated with securing soft targets in densely populated metropolises. In contrast, in December 2001, the Indian Parliament in New Delhi was ambushed by an armed militant group. This brazen assault on a symbol of Indian democracy didn't only shake the nation, but also the global community, resulting in a surge in tensions between India and Pakistan. These episodes, amongst numerous others, have etched enduring scars on the collective conscience of the Indian populace. They underline the catastrophic effects of terrorism on human lives, national security, and socio-economic stability. The burden of terrorism in India accentuates the urgency for robust counter-terrorism strategies. The subsequent segment will look into the initiatives India has taken to fight this threat, as well as the role of the international community in this universal battle against terror. In response to the escalating threat of terrorism, India has devised a host of counter-terrorism strategies, meticulously crafted to address this issue. These strategies are multifaceted, including meticulous legislation and law enforcement practices, comprehensive security measures, and dynamic intelligence sharing. At the heart of India's legislative counter-terrorism measures is the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act of 1967, known as UAPA. This act, as outlined in this link, serves as the bedrock of India's anti-terrorism legislation, forging a powerful weapon to combat the menace of terrorism. The UAPA has been conscientiously amended multiple times, reflecting the constantly evolving landscape of terrorism. In 2004, the Act was expanded to incorporate a specific chapter on prosecuting terrorist acts, as documented in this link. Within the sphere of law enforcement, the National Investigation Agency, or NIA, takes the lead in probing terrorism-related activities in India. Established in 2008, as shown in this link, the NIA has been endowed with increased autonomy, underscoring India's steadfast commitment to eradicating terrorism at its roots. Maharashtra, a state in India, has even established specialized police units to handle terrorist activities, highlighting local commitment to this nationwide issue illustrated in this link. The security of India's borders is a crucial dimension of its counter-terrorism strategy. Owing to India's lengthy coastline and penetrable borders, the task of securing its territory presents distinctive challenges. However, through augmented legislation and international collaboration, India has made remarkable progress strengthening its border security, details of which can be found in this link. Intelligence sharing is another cornerstone of India's counter-terrorism efforts. By forging alliances with international partners, India effectively gathers and scrutinizes vital information to forestall potential terrorist threats. A recent illustration of this is when India hosted the United Nations Security Council's Counter-Terrorism Committee's meeting. As highlighted in this link, signifying its commitment to international partnership in the battle against terrorism. These strategies epitomize India's ceaseless endeavors to counter the threat of terrorism. By employing a mix of robust legislative moves, law enforcement initiatives, border security improvements, and international cooperation, India continues to adapt and evolve its counter-terrorism strategies to confront the ever-changing face of terrorism. Terrorism is a global issue that requires a global response. The international community recognizes the importance of unity and cooperation in the fight against terrorism. It's not just a single country's battle, but a collective effort that transcends borders and politics. A paramount example of such unity and cooperation can be in the workings of the United Nations Security Council's Counter-Terrorism Committee. This body, composed of representatives from all 15 members of the UNSC, plays a critical role in strengthening international cooperation, enhancing intelligence sharing, and implementing effective counter-terrorism measures. Their work stands as a testament to the power of unity in combating terrorism. In addition to the United Nations, another cornerstone of international counter-terrorism efforts is the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO. NATO has a robust counter-terrorism policy which is centered on three main pillars: awareness, capabilities, and engagement. NATO works to increase understanding of the threats, develop capabilities to prepare and respond, and engage with partner countries and other international organizations to enhance international security. NATO's counter-terrorism efforts are integrated into its approach to overall defense and security, contributing to broader stability. However, these organizations are not alone in this fight. Various other international groups have also stepped up to the plate. Organizations such as the Financial Action Task Force, FATF, work tirelessly to prevent the financing of terrorism by money laundering and other illicit activities. These groups aim to cripple the financial backbone of terrorist operations. NATO also actively cooperates with these organizations, recognizing that coordination and cooperation on a global scale are crucial to effectively counter terrorism. This international cooperation extends further to multilateral counterterrorism efforts among various countries. India, for instance, has consistently engaged in cooperative efforts with the United States, among others, to enhance legislation, law enforcement, border security, and even aviation security. Such partnerships underscore the importance of collective action in tackling the menace of terrorism. Aside from cooperative efforts, the international stage also serves as a platform for dialogue and consensus building. Despite the resistance to adopting a common definition of terrorism and violent extremism, the international community continues to strive for a collective understanding. This shared understanding is crucial in ensuring that counterterrorism efforts are aligned and effective. Additionally, at the international level, the Global Counterterrorism Strategy, adopted by the United Nations in 2006, has been a document promoting comprehensive, coordinated efforts to tackle terrorism. The strategy emphasizes the importance of strengthening individual state capacities to prevent and combat terrorism, as well as the need to ensure respect for human rights and the rule of law. Despite the complexities of counterterrorism, it's clear that international cooperation is not just beneficial, it's essential. After all, terrorism knows no borders. It's a threat that affects us all, regardless of nationality or creed. Therefore, our response also transcends these boundaries. International cooperation is crucial in the fight against terrorism. It's a fight we must face together, and with our combined efforts, we can hope for a safer world for all. Terrorism and counterterrorism are dynamic and multifaceted issues that impact us all. As we've traversed this intricate subject matter today, we've shed light on the evolution of these phenomena across the timeline of history. We've witnessed how terrorism has evolved, leveraging advancements in technology, exploiting socio-political grievances, and manipulating geopolitical boundaries to propagate its devastating agenda. In parallel, we've also seen the evolution of counter-terrorism measures, with nations such as India making substantial advancements in legislation, law enforcement, and border security. However, the battle is far from over, as India wrestles with a diverse range of active terrorist groups, budgetary limitations, and the perpetual challenge of balancing security measures with the upholding of civil liberties. Our examination also took us beyond national borders onto the world stage, where we have observed the indispensable role of international cooperation in combating terrorism. Whether through intelligence sharing, unified law enforcement strategies, or collective efforts to throttle terrorist funding sources, the global community indisputably has a crucial role. As we retrospect on this journey, it's evident that the battle against terrorism is an unending one, demanding vigilance, adaptability, and unity. It is a stark reminder that the onus is on every one of us, ranging from individual citizens to global superpowers, to contribute towards a safer world. Along the way, we've uncovered links between various aspects of terrorism and counter-terrorism, deepening our understanding of their intricacies and complexities. We've realized that these connections aren't isolated. They influence one another, shaping the trajectories of both terrorism and counter-terrorism. These links, be it the connection between terrorism and technology, or the correlation between international cooperation and effective counter-terrorism, add layers to our understanding and underscore the need for a multifaceted approach to countering terrorism. Together, armed with this nuanced understanding, we can strive towards a world that is free from the shadow of terrorism. Thank you, guys. Do comment below on which topic you want the next video on. Thank you, everyone.